Stephenson.
Madam Deputy Speaker, rural communities form the backbone of our country. They grow the food that feeds British families, and they're the custodians of our beautiful countryside. And they're home to fantastic village pubs, like the Knife and Cleaver in Houghton Conquest, the Crown in Shillington, and the Anchor in Aspley Guys. Shameless plug for 3 of my fantastic pubs. We all know that the fantastic British pub is the heart of our villages. But I'm concerned that they will now struggle to stand still, never mind invest and give youngsters an opportunity of their first job, given the choices of this government to tax jobs and working people. Pubs across my constituency have told me of their concerns, and I've told them I'd raise them on the floor today. The problems we face in rural communities are a world away from those faced by honourable friends in urban areas. We suffer from similar crimes in urban areas, with particular problems around fly tipping, wildlife crime and rural theft, and I know members across the House have spoken about those at length. I would urge the government to ensure that rural communities are not overlooked in favour of urban areas when allocating police funding. That is certainly a concern of my constituents, who see police resources soaked up by high demand in neighbouring large towns. In parts of my constituency, the benefits of working from home are also limited by poor quality broadband that limits the growth prospects of some of our brilliant local entrepreneurs and family businesses as well. So Project Gigabit must be delivered at pace, and I will support any measures and efforts to do just that. Bus services are often infrequent, unreliable, and unfortunately under this government getting more expensive. And inequalities extend beyond transport. Access to healthcare is particularly challenging, particularly if people don't or can't drive. So I'm keen to make sure that my communities have better access to local healthcare, and I know that's an ambition of the government. We need to do more in this Parliament to ensure that primary care reaches out into our villages and hamlets and ensures that no one is left without the healthcare they need because of where they live. And as the government considers its plans to build the communities of the future, I hope they'll learn from our villages. Decades, centuries even, of sympathetic development have created communities, places that people want to live and spend time in. We must ensure that the legacy we leave for future generations includes sustainable and beautiful homes with the right services and good access to the countryside. I'll give way.
Such as my honourable friend's insight, as he's drawn together 2 fundamentally important issues, because overdevelopment in rural areas places immense pressure on infrastructure like health, and he's described that adequately. Will you agree with me, therefore, that development should be incremental, so that no community changes beyond recognition, and none so that it can no longer be serviced by the kind of public services that are critically important to well-being?
I thank the honourable gentleman for that intervention. I do agree entirely. A lot is spoken of in planning rules around sustainable development, and I know from my community that lots of villages feel quite aggrieved by large new developments built on the edge of villages, which fundamentally change the character. And I think that there is more work to be done to make sure that our villages grow slowly and sustainably, together with infrastructure, and I think there should be lessons learned from many decades of mistakes. And that brings me on to a point, Madam Deputy Speaker, which is that we need to make sure our villages are not overwhelmed by suburban dormitories. I'm afraid some of my communities, whilst they're rural, because of the house building, have turned into dormitories where people use these places to sleep, they head elsewhere to work, and they don't contribute to our local communities in the way that would have been the case in the past. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd reflect that at the heart of our rural communities are a group of often unsung people, although they've been spoken much of today. They look after our countryside, they employ local people, and they ensure that every single person in this country has food on their table. They are, of course, our farmers. And whilst British farmers might not always seek the spotlight, although sometimes they do have shows on Amazon Prime, without them we would be a much poorer country, and our rural communities would be significantly worse off. We should be doing all we can to support them and nurture the next generation of British farmers. But instead, it is regrettable that this government is levying a spiteful family farm tax on them. I met farmers in mid-Bedfordshire recently, and it's clear that this attack on family farms will force many families to sell up to developers or big international farming corporations, ripping the soul out of our rural communities. For the long-term sustainability of rural communities up and down our country, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would urge the government to reconsider this damaging family farm tax. Thank you.